Hey, it's Chris. Biggest games, crowdfunding, August 2024. Let's go. What do you need to know? Where are things at? What needs to be on your radar? Your wallet's going to be safe or going to be tempted? Let's do it. So first up, I thought one of the bigger games for me personally was going to be coming to crowdfunding. It got delayed. Little Defenders of the Realm, the Legends Edition from Greater Than Games got delayed. So sometime later this fall. So that was the one that I really had big on my radar that was going to be, sort of first off in this video, truth be told. That being said, what else do we have right now? 25th Century Games, you get a new reprint of Ra, right? The Pharaoh edition of Ra, the Deluxeified, shut up and sit down, glorified, sold it out everywhere, right? And for good reason. This game is fantastic as an auction, can see just everything good game. And the production that 25th Century Games did with this one is second to none. I was lucky enough to get a prototype copy before that original campaign, and that game blew me out of the water. That game was one of the most fun games I have played, and the aesthetic, again, as not a big aesthetic guy, really, really, really awesome. Now, the other twist with this is they're going to be offering two other games to go along with it, a Roll and Write and Razzia, which is apparently the re-implementation of the Ra card game. So the question with this campaign, like the 25th Century, like the Bite Wings, like the All Plays, right? Are you interested in more than one? And they said that this might be the last time that you're going to be able to, I'm not going to put words in other people's mouths, but widely available at all, this Deluxeified edition of Ra. This is an all-time keeper for me. I'm not sure where it falls in terms of like my favorite games of all time. Probably top 50, probably top 25 even, but I just think it's a keeper no matter what, right? Because I don't really have any other great games like it, and that's nice, right? That's really a nice feeling. But where I was going with that was, are you interested in either of the other two? The roll and write style of things hasn't always panned out as well for games that took a previous mechanism and go to roll and write. They just don't always work as well as the ones that are solely designed for roll and writes in the first place. We'll have one of those roll and writes though in that line later in the video. So that is by far and away the biggest eyeball. Again, I own a copy, so I'm not going to be getting it, but you should be aware so you can budget, because I think it's going to be a little pricier. So take that for what you will. Second up here, we're going to go back to Wallace Designs, and they're giving us a reprint similar to 25th Century in that sense. We're getting Dwarves and Djinn, the expansion for Bloodstones, an asymmetric head-to-head fantasy war-esque game with domino tiles, right? With a lot of stuff going on, arranging in stacks, drawing your tiles, laying them out, becoming units gradually across the board as you spread a la Risk, but nothing like Risk at the same time, right? So new expansion with this one. This one was expensive. And this was one of those, I think, truth be told, myself even, I said, it's $100 on crowdfunding. It's going to be a little less at retail. I'm going to maybe pick it up at retail. Nope, didn't go retail. People have been selling it for upwards of 150 on the secondary market. So this reprint, I think, is going to have some demand just from the people like myself who didn't get it the first time around. Two hidden factions now with Djinn and Dwarves. A new solo mode, and probably the biggest criticism in a game like this that you can say is that you just need more maps, right? Like the root style of things. 2 more maps at least. The mysterious sand dwellers, led by powerful Djinn who teleport their troops. Okay, that's kind of freaking cool, actually. And then mountain kingdoms with their mines, and they have golems. So that's kind of cool. Turksey is in on the solo mode side of things. You're fending off dragons, capturing castles, and dominating the land. So quests are designed to increase variety and offer other challenges. This one probably is the biggest question mark for me of, I think I'd like it, but I'm not sure if I'd like it. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull the trigger. But boy, howdy, am I going to be watching it very, very closely from that standpoint. So the next one up, the other name that you'll know, Garphill Games. We're giving us a combo in this campaign, Skara, Brae, and then the Anarchy. 2 completely different games out of the Garphill collection. The Anarchy is going back from their historical base, because a lot of their games are directly out of that. And I love that, right? They're not for me, but I like having that theme because it's not as widely used as a whole. This is 1135. King of England Henry I dies. The Empress thinks she should succeed. The nephew is going quicker to the throne. You're trying to engage whatever nobles can to build their domain, defend the castle from the upcoming armies, and trying to figure out who is actually going to be the most loyal ally to the new king, earning the largest earldom. Weight is already a 4 on Board Game Geek, so like most Garphill games, it's way too heavy for me, but I think it's interesting to talk about. And again, I want to see what they can do with this. The other one, Skara Brae, is Neolithic Northern Scotland, slightly less heavy, only a 3, gathering your resources, feeding, clothing, and sheltering settlers, drafting workers, and providing everything that settlers need before the end of the round, before you, well, potentially lose out if you can't do so. So that one is more, it looks like the traditional worker placement along the little bit lighter side too. So again, I just look at these games as a non-worker placement person, and I always go, what's the catch? What's the gimmick? What's the difference? What's the why I get it over the half dozen other Euros that are going to be coming out in, Essen in 2 months, right? That's my comparison point, and I'm not always the good barometer for that, but again, it's one of those that I just like watching and kind of seeing. So we'll see. And Garphill is the back us as an indie publisher, usually some promos, so that's the reason you're looking at getting them from that side of things. So then we're going to go over, and we actually have a implementation, also just an expansion of One Deck Dungeon from Asmati Games. I think they were doing a little bit of this at Gen Con this weekend as well. The Relics of the Forge, just giving you potentially more ways to mitigate. New relics, new strategies, more means for forging with fuel, and a powerful way to expend that fuel. And then, you know what? New dungeons, new heroes, new monsters, new traps. The big conundrum is it's dice rolling. It's a lot of dice rolling, and a lot of the big criticism of the original base game as a whole is not as much mitigation, right? So if you're a mitigator, fine. You're not probably going to like this game. This one might not change that. But if you like your randomness, your chaos, and you're, well, quick to lose, well, this one might be up your ilk, especially if you like a little bit more fantasy and a little bit more stuff to go along with it. So we'll kind of see where that one goes. Then Dungeon Twister over on GameFound is getting a 20th anniversary edition. 2-player, 2-adventurer team-based asymmetric powers going head-to-head in a dungeon comprised of 8 rooms, rotated by the players, spending your actions, moving around, picking up and battling with the opponent's team, as well as manipulating the dungeon in the first place, right? Get 5 victory points and win. Well, how do you get victory points? You kill adventurers, you gather your combat and your actions via card systems, and, well, play them out until you beat your opponent. So, interesting. As someone who was never really familiar with the original, which is actually a 2004 game, so yeah, 20th anniversary, like literally 20th anniversary right there, duh. We're going to see what they have in store for us. This game gives me a little bit of Wiz War vibes. By the way, side note here, I'm going to do a sole separate video for this. I found Malefic Curses, the Wiz War 8th edition expansion on eBay. Your boy bought it this past week, subscribing to the eBay subscription thing, right? It got me a copy. Anyway, I didn't pay an arm and a leg. I only paid like half a kidney. So, going over to the GameFound page here and just perusing it while I'm talking to you, 2 to 4 players in this base game, where the original Dungeon Twister was only 2. They're giving you magnetized color ring bases. I mean, that's fine. Enlarged tiles, again, fine. There will be expansions. I mean, and this game has a ton of expansions in the first place. So the 3 to 4 player module is an expansion. Again, that is something else there. Paladins, dragons, challenges. I mean, man, this game, if it really could be something like that, I think it, is something along those lines that I would really like. It's just a question of how much chaos, how much upkeep, and how much does it now fit with all of the upgraded advances we've seen in games like this in the past, not even 20 years, but let alone like 2 or 3 years. So really intrigued to see where this one's going to go. Nearly 5,000 people now, including me, because I just click follow on the GameFound page while I'm doing the video. So I'm intrigued. This one's actually launching this coming week, so you can give it a look-see. The other one launching on GameFound, the one I previewed for the first time around, Snowdale Design, Lands of Galzyr, is coming back with a reprint and more expansion content. As an open-world sandbox, side of light, Zen-like questing adventure game, with just some asymmetric power manipulation of dice mitigation and rolling with an app. It's very nice. It's a very nice game. It's just open world doing cool stuff. And this expansion is actually called Dreams and Mysteries, new stories, quests, character abilities, and a brand new adventure to go along with it. So you're getting everything that you want just with more lands of Galzyr as a whole, right? Open world, like I said, very, very story driven. There's not a whole lot of other details. I don't think it's going to stray far from the formula that's so well received at this point in the first place. Again, 4,300 people following the GameFound campaign page at the time of me filming this. And again, it's one of those from Snowdale Design. It doesn't get wide retail. Snowdale only sells their stuff through their web shop. So your best price, actually, similarly to, mentioning earlier, is here rather than elsewhere. But it is open world sandbox zen, just like storytelling. And that may appeal to you, but the open-endedness of it may also not appeal to you. And that's ultimately why I said, okay, I like this game, but I don't think it's going to have a long-term traction in my collection in that sense, just because the people I play with, they want definitive answers at the end, right? And so my kids, this is a great tweener game, I think, as well, for that transition of let's just play something, get it out, play for a while, don't need to have a definitive endpoint, and then put it away, and then come back to it, and then get it out, and then come back to it. And I think that fits perfectly, and it doesn't really have an equivalent out there. Something more like Mythwind is probably something more similar in that sense. So I think they're doing a great job with this. And again, I don't know if it's going to be your ilk, but it's fantastic. And, I play it cooperatively, but I think you could also play it competitively too, if that's how you prefer to do things, a little quest style as well. The other big one, I think it's going to get a lot more money. However, I think it's also a little bit of a dark horse still. My review will be coming out before the launch of the campaign in the third week of the month, but that's Leviathan Wilds, right? Shadows of Colossus, the board game. And I was just playing my copy earlier today. I've got some few ups and few downs, but ultimately, I'll give you some spoilers here, right? If you're on the fence or you're looking at it. It's Shadows of the Colossus. It's deck-driven, card mitigation, with some slight twist and asymmetry, with some comboing your character in terms of their class and their powers. Open up, spiral-bound enemies, 17 different bosses you're going to be going up against, and mixing and matching your own abilities, mitigating, helping out each other, going around, trying to strike and destroy dice, reforming crystals, which are the weak spots of the monsters as you maneuver, but as you run out of grip, you can fall, and the monster's going to retaliate on a turn-by-turn basis, cooperatively style. It's fantastic so far. The only issue I'm kind of slightly worried about, not having played it a ton, scalability, right? I'm not sure it plays as well with the lower player counts. Now, again, let me clarify that. I think it's really hard at the lower player counts. I think it's slightly easier at the higher player counts. There's not a whole lot of adjustment at the player count differential. It's clever though, and it's fun. It's a hard cooperative game. It's hard. So that's what you're going to be looking at with this one. The other thing I'm wondering about is how much more is it? Is it going to give me a mechanic or two more? Or is it just going to go the Aeon's End depth route or Lands of Galzyr route that we were just talking, where it's going more breadth this way rather than increasing the depth of how many rules I need to have, because it doesn't need to have that. And so that's going to be the real catch with this one. But if it can, iron out a few of those things, it reminds me more of one of my other favorite folks from the indie side of things, Uprising Curse of the Last Emperor, because they took the expansion and they said, these are the critiques of our base game in the first place. Designed content to specifically address it and mold it to that way to basically just make it that much better. And that's what I'm anticipating, seeing what this is for the first edition and seeing what the second edition with new stuff is going to look like. And truth be told, folks, that makes me kind of freaking excited, right? Because it has that much potential. And that's cool to see. Then, speaking of that previously mentioned roll and write, we have the Koala Rescue Club from Postmark Games. Now, you may remember Postmark Games because they have put out the successful roll and writes in the forms of Voyages, which is actually in like the top 13 or 1600 board games on Board Game Geek. As a roll and write, that's freaking fantastic. Think Guild of Merchant Explorers, only before Guild of Merchant Explorers. Then we had Aquamarine and the more recent Waypoints, and they had the Battle Line card series, and now this is Koalas, and you're rescuing them, and you're rolling and writing and rolling the dice in order to do a polyomino dual layer situation. One is going to give you the shape of the trees. The other is going to give you the shape of the koalas that you have to put onto the trees, and the combo cascading and the everything to go along with that you would expect from a roll and write. Is it going to be good? Well, I'll have some thoughts on it. They sent me the first map, so I'm kind of intrigued to try it out as someone who was a previous backer of all three of those campaigns, Voyages, Aquamarine, and, well, Waypoints. So, truth be told, I haven't actually played Waypoints, but Voyages, big fan. So, It's easy accessible. My wife loves this type of game, so I'm really excited to try it out as well. Two more here at the end. We have March of the Ants. If you remember March of the Ants, sort of a worker placement, evolve your ants back from 2015. It's coming back to us now with a redo edition as a 4X worker placement style game with tiles. You know, new artwork, graphic design, revised mechanics, new resting cards, great tunnel battles, wooden ant meeples, and same quick feel of rich 4X, they say, in under 90 minutes. Control of an ant nest, going up against rival nests, explore, evolve, vie for control of the Great Tunnel. Open-ended strategy game where the best player is going to win. This is one of those games, I feel like, from Weird City that was originally just like out of nowhere, and then it has sort of grown over time of people really thinking it's a dark horse, speaking of them as well. Forging event cards, mutating your colony, and trying to get more colony points as you take control of the metal in the tunnel. So is this going to be better? Is this going to be that much better to get you in from a 4X? Although, you know what, truth be told, nature is the big, draw right now. And so I would not be surprised if we see a fair number of people really, looking at it hard from that aspect of things, especially with ant meeples, right? Like, that's really going to appeal. I know. You know what? Go look at some other big nature, earth-themed crowdfunders of the last, 6 months to 2 years. It's popular. It's not just me, it's popular. Last up, Flanix. Lords of Heaven. Asymmetric factions going head to head in conquering the Holy Land in the Middle East. 2 to 4 players, area control, 60 historical characters, fighting battles, moving troops, and developing your Middle East holdings. Clever rivalry and cooperation is necessary between 2 rival factions, Christian and Islamic, where combat and conquest, they say, aren't always the best ways to achieve success. A more nuanced politically and steeped in the Crusades setting. So a couple scenarios, a campaign. That's interesting setting to go as a whole. And Flanix is known for a little bit more like this style of things. 1 to 2 hours, a little bit of heavy card-driven gameplay here. So we'll see what this one can entail. And again, I have no idea what to expect with it, but it's at least caught my eye with a combination of mechanisms and themes. Just like the Garphills. So Flanix has got, that sort of thing going on historically as well. That's August right now. We'll see. A couple more big ones got moved till September, like I was talking at the beginning, right? Defenders of the Realm. We have Puerto Rico. So things like that got shuffled into that side of things. A couple others as well. I can't remember off the top of my head, but ones that I was expecting initially in August. And then we'll just kind of see whatever pops up, right? Like I've been saying, CMON's been doing a campaign a month right now. So what's the CMON campaign going to look like as well? Whether it's going to be a pre-order, a store, a retail, what is it going to look like from that side of things? Who knows? And we'll just kind of see what else falls because, as always, on a week-by-week basis, just like this past week, Dungeon Degenerates launched, came out of nowhere, didn't know it was coming. And so I love seeing what pops up too, because 1 or 2 dark horses, speaking of like things like Leviathan Wilds that came out of nowhere when it first came onto crowdfunding and captured a lot of people by surprise. You're going to see stuff like that too this month. And if you want to know more about them and you want to see where they're at on a weekly basis, subscribe because I'm covering them all. So there you go. Stay classy. Hope this was helpful. Have a great freaking day.